Hi, I'm Paul McIntyre. Welcome to In the Can, a daily edition from the Press Centre, talking to some of the biggest international and Australian names in tech, media and marketing. With us today, we have Henry Tajer, Global Chief Executive of IPG Mediabrands. Welcome, Henry.
Thank you.
Professor Karen Nelson-Field, whose work is in media innovation and artificial intelligence. Welcome, Professor. Lindsay Pattison, Global Chief Executive of Maxus Media Agency. And Joe Marchese, President of Advanced Advertising at Fox Networks in the US. Joe, we might go to you first. Your views on the subprime advertising crisis that you've talked about in the past. What is that and what are the implications?
I think that if you take a basic premise that the most valuable resource on planet Earth is human attention. Like you wanna sell something, you need attention first. You want to change opinion. So the most valuable resource on planet Earth is attention, and media buying is so fascinating because it's supposed to be the market for buying and trading attention. Where the subprime comes in is, we came from a world of where it was just television, and while we could argue over the accuracy of Nielsen all day long, and plenty do, at least it was the same inaccuracy across the board. In digital, half an ad for 2 seconds, half an ad for 10 seconds, the whole ad for 10 seconds, the whole ad on half the page for 10 seconds, the whole ad on the whole page for 30 seconds.
With or without audio?
With or without audio. Everything I just listed counts as one impression. So now we don't have commodity anymore. And without commodity, you have a problem in a market, is we just turn down quality level, and then we keep selling and rebatching. So if you've read Flash Boys or if you've seen The Big Short, you could probably take most of the words out of that apply to financial services and put it in for advertising. And we have that currently happening in the ad market. It's been why you've seen a big push back into television. Not that television has changed or gotten better, it's just reliable sources of human attention.
Good points. And Henry, you got a take on that?
Well, I think beauty's in the eye of the beholder. We're not really measuring on impression, and I think it's quickly becoming an old world measure. Some of what Joe refers to as subprime inventory and content is actually delivering for some clients real results.
I guess we try and plan to outcomes, and I think we've always looked at outcomes, but in the old world, outcomes were quite vague. They were awareness, consideration, intent, and now in a more digitalised world, you look for very hard metrics because you can measure it, you do measure it, so you look for perhaps the wrong things, that adage of because you can count it, you do count it. So I think what's more interesting is what outcome is the client looking for, and throughout the purchase funnel, not just last click, but throughout the purchase funnel, how are all your different channels interacting, working with each other and delivering towards an outcome? And I think we are, sadly, some way away from that, but certainly we will change to that, and we should begin to be remunerated on outcomes, not on impressions.
Karen, I just want to ask you, in terms of outcomes, you've done some work in and around this. Just talk us a little bit, or your take on that.
I mean, I'm an academic, so I take it from a slightly different perspective, but it's interesting you talk about attention because there are a number of fairly high-profile academics around the world that are talking about the attention economy being the next phase of measurement, and I completely agree with that. I think that there's a case to be said about moving away from intention and explicit memory-based kind of old-fashioned metrics and moving more towards implicit AI-based measures, which actually can look at cross-platform. And to your point, if a consumer doesn't actually make a purchase, then you still can measure their level of attention relative to how much you've invested. So I think that's a really important discussion that will be probably brought up this week.
Henry, Snapchat, have you got it mastered yet? And then once you get beyond that...
I'm still trying to work out Facebook.
We do a little face swap right now.
I think, the 30-second has become the 3-second. What can a brand do in 3 seconds that will create a second encounter or a second action? And those principles, I think, apply to television as well. Because the consumer, whether they're watching television or engaging on a social platform, really only is prepared to give brands or products a very limited amount of time. And if they are interested, then they'll extend and immerse themselves. And that is the new economy.
I do agree that 3 seconds can be an effective portion of if it triggers longer events. I actually believe that marketing will move to a place where there's deep engagement and then reminders. So a 3-second reminder of what Coca-Cola does with Open Happiness is absolutely effective as long as someone has seen the full message at some point. I mean, there's a huge initiative across Fox Networks and Truex, which is a company that they had purchased, to say, what can we do to set the industry forward for what the next generation of the commercial looks like? And I think that'll happen now.
You're fairly bullish on the advertising market overall, Henry. You talked about some numbers, new projections you've put out.
Well, on a global level, we're sort of looking at a global ad market of between 3 to 3.5. We've just revised the US, as I mentioned, and the US is definitely leading the world in terms of confidence. You know, the question I've got for Australian marketers is, where is the confidence? Why aren't they investing in their brands through marketing? Marketing grows brands. Growing brands means a growing business. It seems as though marketing isn't being leveraged as much as it should.
For me, I think, you know, everyone's focusing on VR and a whole lot of other emerging technologies, but what does it really mean for brand growth? And, you know, there is this big disconnect between investment and return, and I think that will be discussed a lot this week. Or are we missing the point? Are we just investing in tech for tech's sake?
Lindsay, forecast?
The micro moments, the precision, the targeting, the behaviour, the programmatic and the AI is going to be fascinating, and it will get better, but we mustn't forget about those mass moments and brand building and long-term brand stories, because you don't wake up one day with enough money to buy a Mercedes-Benz and go and buy it because you've seen an ad online. You buy it because you've had the heritage and the history and the longing built up over a number of years. So I think we need to think about the micro moments, but the mass moments, and the short and the long.
And so, Joe, there's a nice segue into you in terms of the micro and the short term, the longer term, and television. US upfront's looking good, but your take overall?
Overall, I'm bullish on the industry of advertising because, like I said before, I believe fully that human attention is the most valuable resource on the planet. Like, it shapes everything from elections to purchasing to, so I'm bullish long term. I think in the short term, we're going to have some bumps as we get through this period with readjusting for what an impression is, what commodity prices should we be trading on, what is the right ROI and what's not the right. The industry is going to have to get itself together. So I think next year at this time we'll be talking about some stuff we missed along the way. But overall bullish on the market because it does drive value.
Great. Thank you all very much. We will let you go, and we'll be back tomorrow with another edition of In the Can. See you then.